All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping right into a profound, almost mystical narrative that really pushes the boundaries of human understanding. Picture this, a vast, open cave. There's a perfect sphere of fire just hovering in the air. This isn't just a physical space, it's like a world exhaling, completely unburdened. And sitting there is Fletcher. He's a seeker who has basically crossed every threshold, dissolved every illusion, and has started living the integrated path. Across from him sits this ancient, incredibly wise dragon named Zurin. Fletcher has finally reached the end of his journey, or well, so he thinks. He is absolutely ready for the ultimate teaching.
So, Fletcher whispers this ultimate mind-bending question to his teacher. What comes after this? What is actually left to learn? And I want to pose this directly to you, the focused learner watching this right now. What really remains when there is absolutely nothing left to learn? Just think about it for a second. You've read all the books, you've done all the practices, you've acquired all the knowledge. What on earth happens next?
Zaran smiles. Not a human smile, obviously, but with this ancient stillness right behind his eyes. And he gives this beautifully enigmatic answer. Nothing and everything. Take a moment to just let that sink in. It's this striking paradox, and it perfectly sets up the ancient, beautiful tone of the wisdom we're going to unpack today. Okay, let's dive into this paradox. On the one hand, there is literally nothing left to learn, but on the other, the learning never ends. So how can both of those things be true at the same time? Well, Zarin explains to Fletcher that awakening isn't some final destination you just arrive at, check off your list, and say done. Instead, it is a completely new vantage point. You don't learn new truths from here. You just learn how to truly live the truth you've already seen. From this new vantage point, the whole world becomes your teacher. Every single moment is instruction. Every emotion you feel, it isn't a distraction anymore. It's guidance. Every interaction you have with someone is practice, and every breath is pure clarity. The big takeaway here is that you aren't cramming new facts into your brain anymore. You're just effortlessly living in a state of continuous truth.
Moving on to the 4 pillars of being. What remains when illusions dissolve?
To explain this framework, Zarin raises one claw and 4 glowing symbols actually appear in the air. He conjures the first one, awareness. This is the absolute ground of all experience. Zarin tells Fletcher that even when your thoughts dissolve, when your sense of identity dissolves, heck, when time and existence itself seem to dissolve, awareness remains. It's the one thing that never ever changes. And the best part? It's not something you have to go out and buy or acquire. It's simply what you have always been. Everything you experience is just arising within this calm, unchanging awareness.
The second symbol is presence. Now, we usually think of presence as this really active thing we have to do, right? Like forcing ourselves to pay attention or white-knuckling our focus. But Zoran teaches that presence is actually the end of resistance. It's living life totally without friction. It's clarity, openness, and this deep intimacy with the present moment. Presence is just what naturally remains when you finally stop fighting what's happening right now.
Next up is simplicity. This represents the end of illusion. It's the completely natural state of an integrated human being. Imagine living with no complicated looping narrative in your head, no rigid identity you're desperately clinging to, no heavy conceptual overlay, nothing extra added, just this. When Fletcher hears this, he lets out this huge exhale and says it feels deeply peaceful. And Zoran just says yes, because simplicity is the shape of truth.
The final pillar is freedom, and the crucial thing to understand here is that freedom doesn't just mean running around doing whatever the heck you want. It is the absolute end of compulsion. It's taking action born from crystal clear clarity, completely unentangled by messy emotions or forcefully driven by your desires. You can have a thought without identifying with it. You can have an identity without rigid dogmatic belief. It is the absolute absence of internal force and illusion.
All right, let's look at the 3 living transmissions, practices to remember, not to learn.
So how do we actually apply all this high-level philosophy? Zoran unfurls one of his massive wings, and 3 new symbols start glowing. Think of these as your systematic go-to toolkit for whenever life feels totally overwhelming. Step 1, remember awareness. When things get crazy, just pause and silently tell yourself, this is arising in awareness. Step 2, return to presence. Whenever you feel your chest tightening with stress, just soften and repeat the phrase, only this. And step 3, live simply. In any confusing, overly complex situation, just ask yourself, what is the simplest true action here? And then you just do it.
Next, we have the Dragon's Warning. Simple, but not easy.
Now, right before we get too comfortable with all this Zen wisdom, Zoran gives Fletcher a pretty firm reality check.
The world is going to try to rebuild your illusions. Your ego is absolutely going to try to resurrect itself, and your mind will fight tooth and nail to reclaim its throne. This maps so perfectly onto our modern lives, doesn't it? Think about your daily hustle, the endless pinging of your phone, the social pressures, the traffic. The world is quite literally designed to drag you right back into illusion, to make your ego flare up, and to put that anxious, chattering mind right back in charge.
Hearing all these daunting obstacles, Fletcher swallows hard, and he asks this desperate, incredibly relatable question that I think we're all wondering. So, how do I hold on to this?
Zoran's answer is a total paradigm shift. He says, you do not hold on, you relax into it. Isn't that wild? You don't fiercely grip onto clarity. You don't aggressively go to war with your ego. Because fighting and holding on, that just creates more friction. Instead, you simply let go. You just relax back into the awareness that is already naturally sitting there.
And that brings us to the one-breath truth, the entire path in a single breath.
This is the grand climax of our explainer. Zoran gives Fletcher one final, super tangible tool, and I actually want you to do this with me right now. Seriously, give it a try. Ready? Take a deep breath in and silently say, awareness. Now exhale and say, only this. That incredibly simple mechanism right there, that's it. That is the entire path. It's the whole truth, the entire mystical transmission, captured in a single, accessible breath.
As Fletcher slowly opens his eyes, he asks what happens now. Zoran stands up, his ancient wings completely unfolding, and he says, now you live. Not as the one you were, not as the one you imagined, but as the one who sees. The fire starts to brighten, the cave begins to dissolve, the dragon slowly fades away, and literally all that remains is awareness. All that remains is you. So as we wrap up this explainer and you step back out into the noise of the real world, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. When there's absolutely nothing left to learn, how will you choose to see?